I met Madison 9 years ago, totally by accident. I had just finished a huge remodel job on a client's lake house, and one of the subcontractors invited me to his girlfriend's birthday party. I didn't know a single person there, and I almost left early, but then she walked in, wearing this burnt orange sundress, hair pulled up in a lazy knot, laughing like she owned the place. And somehow, even in a crowded room full of people who all seemed to know each other, she made a beeline straight for me. We started talking over cheap red wine and mismatched patio chairs, and didn't stop. She had this energy, fast-talking, curious, slightly sarcastic but warm. I told her I ran a small construction business, and she asked a million questions about it. She worked in marketing and was just transitioning into a bigger role at her firm. I was struck by how sharp she was, ambitious but grounded. We ended up leaving the party early and grabbing coffee at a 24-hour diner across the street. I remember thinking, this one's different. Things moved fast after that. We started dating seriously within a couple of months. She met my parents that Christmas, and I met hers not long after. By the end of the following year, we were living together. We got married 3 years into our relationship, in a small ceremony up in Estes Park. Just family and a few close friends. She looked beautiful. I mean, people say that about weddings, but Madison, she really did. I couldn't stop looking at her. Now we've been married 6 years. We live in a quiet neighborhood outside of Denver, in a house I remodeled myself. Madison has her office upstairs where she works remotely most days. She consults for a few mid-sized tech firms and manages a team. I've expanded my business into a full construction and renovation company. It's been a grind, but we're in a good place financially. We have our routines. Saturday mornings we sleep in and usually walk down to this little cafe we both love. Sunday nights are movie nights. She always picks something emotional, and I always try to steer us towards something dumb and explosive, and we somehow meet in the middle. I cook more than she does. She jokes that I'm a better husband when I've got a cutting board in front of me. She's more the spontaneous type. Last month she booked us a weekend getaway to Santa Fe without even asking, just texted me the itinerary. That's how she is, loves surprises, big and small. We don't have kids, not yet. It's something we've talked about, sometimes seriously, sometimes just in passing. For now, it's just the two of us, plus a rescue lab named Murphy who thinks he owns the entire house. If I had to sum it up, I'd say we're solid. Busy, like most couples. But we've built a life that's full of work, of laughter, of goals and shared dreams. And I still look at her some mornings, hair everywhere, coffee in hand, and think, damn, I got lucky. Our days follow a rhythm. Not in a boring way, more like a shared melody we've both learned to play over time. I wake up before Madison most mornings. It's always been that way. I like the quiet of early hours, the way the world feels half asleep. I'll make coffee, check emails, sometimes head out for a job site visit. By the time she rolls out of bed, wrapped in a hoodie, hair messy, looking like she could win a marathon in her sleep, Murphy's already whining for his walk. We're not a flashy couple. We don't post much on social media. Most of our friends joke that we're the grown-up pair in the group, even though we're both in our early 30s. But I think what they're seeing is just calm. A kind of comfort we have with each other. We don't try too hard. We don't have to. After work, she usually settles into the couch with a glass of wine and her laptop, wrapping up emails or planning marketing decks for the next week. I'll be cooking something. Madison's favorite lately is a garlic butter salmon dish I stole off YouTube. She teases me about how I go into chef mode and refuse to let anyone help. But then she'll sneak over and steal bites before it's ready. It's our little routine. Fridays are date nights. No matter how hectic things get, we've kept that promise to ourselves. Sometimes it's a nice dinner downtown. Other times it's just takeout and a new series to binge. But we keep that space for each other. No phones, no emails, just us. It's something Madison was really big on early in the marriage, making sure we didn't become one of those couples that lives in the same house but forgets to actually connect. And I've got to say, she's right. It matters. She's got a spark to her that hasn't dulled. She's driven, she works long hours when she's in the zone, and she's damn good at what she does. I admire that. Sometimes I worry she works too much, especially when she's glued to Slack at midnight. But she loves what she does, and I've always supported that. On weekends, we try to get out of town when we can. Drives up to the mountains, spontaneous Airbnb stays in little towns you've never heard of. She's the planner in that department. I'm usually just in charge of snacks and making sure Murphy doesn't eat something weird on the trail. It's not a perfect life. We argue like anyone else. Usually about silly things, her overpacking for trips, me forgetting to take out the recycling. But we always come back to each other. There's never been a time when I doubted that we were on the same team. Sometimes, when we're just sitting in silence, she's reading a book, I'm half watching some show, I get hit with this quiet sense of gratitude. Like, how did I end up here? With someone who makes the ordinary feel steady. With someone who knows how I take my coffee, when I need space, and when I need to be pulled back in. I know every marriage has its seasons. We've had highs and lows, but overall, this feels like the kind of life we dreamed about when we were just dating, building something together, day by day. When people talk about relationships, they always focus on the big things, anniversaries, vacations, moving in together, buying houses. But what no one really tells you is that the soul of a marriage is in the little stuff. And with Madison, it's always been about the little things. She has this habit of leaving sticky notes. Not often, just when I least expect it. I'll open my lunch at the job site and there'll be a folded post-it that says something dumb like, "Don't let the sandwiches unionize," or a quick, "Love you. Don't die on a ladder." It always makes me smile, even when the day's falling apart. She says I'm impossible to read sometimes, that I keep too much bottled up. I probably do. But she knows how to cut through that. On her side, she needs reassurance. Not the over-the-top kind. Just knowing I'm there, tuned in. When I forget to text her during the day, she won't say anything directly, but I'll notice the way her voice goes a little quieter in the evening. It's her tell. I've gotten better at recognizing it. Marriage has this weird way of making you a student of someone else's silences. We've made a life out of shared compromises. I gave in and let her turn the third bedroom into her office/yoga studio. She agreed to let Murphy sleep on the bed, even though she swore up and down she didn't want a fur blanket. We balance each other out. Where I'm steady, she's spontaneous. Where I'm methodical, she's gut-driven. And for the most part, it works. Our families get along great. Her parents live in Oregon, so we don't see them a ton, but when we do, it's always a good time. Her dad's kind of a goofball, the kind who pretends he's terrible at board games just to lull you into a trap. My folks are more low-key. Every now and then we host both sides at our place, fire pit in the backyard, lots of wine, too much food. Madison is amazing at hosting. She goes full Pinterest mode and somehow makes it look effortless. She has this laugh that fills a room. I still catch myself turning my head when I hear it, like I did the night we met. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's true. There's something about her presence, it anchors a room. And when she curls up next to me at the end of the day, head on my chest, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. We talked recently about taking a trip, just the two of us. Something warm. Somewhere with no emails, no calls, just rest. She mentioned maybe doing a girls' weekend first, some time to recharge. I told her I thought it was a great idea. She works hard. She deserves it. That's the thing about love, I guess. It's not in the grand gestures. It's in the trust you build when no one's watching. And up to this point, I've never had a reason not to trust her. We were each other's safe place. Or at least, that's what I believed. It was a Wednesday evening, sometime around 7:30. I had just finished cleaning up dinner, grilled chicken and sweet potatoes, and was halfway through a beer, scrolling mindlessly through the news on my phone. Madison walked in from her office and stood there for a moment, like she was waiting for the right beat to jump into a conversation. That was her tell, a hands tucked behind her back, rocking gently on her heels. I knew something was coming. "Hey babe," she said, a little too sweetly. "Can I ask you something?" I looked up. "Sure. What's up?" She sat down across from me, casually brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "So, the girls and I have been talking about doing a weekend getaway. Nothing crazy, just a short trip somewhere warm. Maybe Palm Springs or Scottsdale. Just for 4 or 5 days." I nodded. "That sounds nice. You haven't done one of those in a while, right?" she said, perking up a bit. "And we figured it'd be good timing, before things at work get even crazier. Everyone's schedules actually align for once, so we want to just go for it." She was already opening her laptop, pulling up tabs of boutique hotels and Airbnb listings. Her eyes flicked toward me. "I need about $1,500 for the flight, lodging, and a little spending money. I was thinking of putting it on the joint card, but wanted to ask first." I shrugged. "Yeah, that's fine. You sure that's all you need?" She smiled wide. "You're the best." There was no hesitation in me. Why would there be? Madison's always been independent, responsible with money. She's never asked for more than she needs. And if anyone deserved a break, it was her. She's been running hard at work, juggling multiple clients, late meetings. I was glad she was finally doing something for herself. She moved around the table, wrapped her arms around my shoulders, and kissed my cheek. "You're not going to miss me too much while I'm gone." I smirked. "Only if Murphy doesn't snore louder than you." She laughed, swatted my arm, and went back to her computer to finalize the plans. I remember watching her as she clicked through resort photos and typed in flight info. She looked excited, giddy even. That carefree expression I hadn't seen in a while. It made me happy to see her like that. She said she'd be going with Emily, Lacey, and one of her newer work friends, Tessa. I didn't think much about it. I'd met Emily and Lacey plenty of times. They were harmless. I couldn't quite remember meeting Tessa, but I figured she must have been at one of those after-work happy hours Madison occasionally invited me to, but I never actually attended. When she showed me the itinerary a couple days later, I glanced through it. It all looked normal. Departure next Thursday, return Sunday night. She'd already sent an out-of-office message and rescheduled one of our Friday date nights. She even showed me a cute new bikini she'd ordered online. I teased her about packing 6 pairs of sandals for a 4-day trip, and she rolled her eyes like I didn't understand the complex science of vacation wardrobes. That was it. I didn't think twice. I kissed her goodbye at the airport, carried her suitcase out to the car, told her to have fun and send pictures. She said she would. Said she'd call every night. Said she'd miss me like crazy. And I believed her. The house felt too quiet without her. Madison had only been gone 2 days, but the absence hit harder than I expected. Murphy, our Labrador, kept wandering from room to room like he was searching for her. He'd whine a little, then flop down on the floor with a heavy sigh. I found myself doing the same, just waiting for her voice, her laugh, that background buzz she always brought into a room. She'd called the night she landed, told me the flight was smooth, that they had already hit the pool and were planning a dinner at some rooftop place that overlooked the desert. She sounded happy, lighter than I'd heard her in weeks. But something about the call sat weird with me. Not what she said, just how she said it. I couldn't put my finger on it. It wasn't distant, not exactly, but distracted. Like her voice was half a beat off, her attention somewhere else. She ended the call pretty quickly, said she was tired from the flight and wanted to shower before dinner. Fair enough. I didn't think much of it at first. But the next night? No call. Just a short text around 11 p.m. that read, "Long day, crashing early. Love you." I stared at the message longer than I should have, wondering why it felt so impersonal. Madison was always the type to leave long voice notes, or ramble on FaceTime about the color of the cocktails they were drinking. This felt like a post-it on a fridge. I told myself I was overthinking. I was probably just feeling weird because I missed her, and I'm not used to sleeping alone. That's what I chalked it up to, until Saturday night rolled around. We had a standing tradition of texting each other photos of our meals whenever we were apart. It started years ago when I was on a week-long build in Aspen and she'd send me pictures of every salad she ate with captions like, "This is what freedom looks like." Silly stuff, but it stuck. That night, I sent her a picture of the burger I picked up from our favorite local spot, just a lazy dinner after a long day. I added a dumb caption, "Not as good without you here to steal my fries." She didn't respond. Hours passed. Nothing. No call. No message. Just silence. It wasn't like her. Not Madison. Not the woman who made me promise to text the second I got home if I stayed out late. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I mean, people get busy. Maybe they went out. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she just fell asleep early. But there was something gnawing at me. Something I couldn't name. She wasn't posting either. Madison usually posted Instagram stories when she traveled, airport coffee, room views, group shots with friends clinking glasses. This time, nothing. Her account was quiet. Too quiet. I even checked the tagged photos, hoping to see something from Lacey or Emily, but there was nothing new. I sat on the couch with Murphy at my feet, holding my phone, staring at our last text thread. I didn't say anything. Didn't want to seem clingy. But a whisper of doubt had crept in, and I couldn't shake it. Maybe she was just having fun and forgot. Maybe the girls were keeping it low-key. Maybe she needed space and didn't want to be glued to her phone. Or maybe... No. I shut that thought down before it could finish forming. I wasn't going to start doubting her just because a few calls were missed. Still, that night, I couldn't sleep. And when I finally drifted off, I dreamed I was in our house, but every room was locked from the inside, and I couldn't get through any of the doors. Sunday morning, I woke up to sunlight pouring through the blinds and Murphy curled up where Madison used to sleep. It was one of those disorienting moments where, for a second, I forgot she was gone. I reached over, half asleep, like I'd find her there. My hand met nothing but warm sheets and dog fur. Her side of the bed was still perfectly made. I got up, made coffee, and opened the curtains. The weather was perfect, blue skies, not a cloud in sight. I remember thinking how strange it was that such a beautiful day could feel so off. Madison still hadn't called. Not even a text. I waited until around 10 a.m. before I finally caved and messaged her. Hey, hope everything's good. Let me know when you have a minute. An hour passed. Then another. Around noon I got a reply. Sorry. Spa day ran long and my phone died. We're going out soon. I'll call you tonight. Love you. Spa day. Okay. Except she hadn't mentioned a spa day in the itinerary she'd shown me. She'd made a whole big deal about this trip being all about chilling by the pool and catching up with the girls. No excursions. No touristy stuff. Just rest and drinks. Not that it was a big deal. I mean, plans change. I know that. But something about how quickly the explanation came felt weirdly rehearsed. Like she was anticipating a question I hadn't even asked. Later that day, I was in the garage organizing some tools when my phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo, her and two women, drinks in hand, all smiles. Caption, finally getting some sun. I looked closer. I recognized Emily. Barely. And I think the other one was Lacey, though the sunglasses made it hard to tell. But what caught my attention wasn't who was in the picture, it was who wasn't. The fourth friend, Tessa, the one Madison had mentioned, was nowhere to be seen. And unless one of them was holding the phone with a very long arm, someone else had taken that photo. Again, I didn't want to spiral. It was just a vacation picture. But something didn't add up. I zoomed in on the background, some kind of private deck with high walls, lounge chairs, a bar off to the side. It didn't match the hotel she'd shown me in the screenshots earlier that week. Different setup, different furniture. I even pulled up the listing on my phone and compared them side by side. Definitely not the same place. Maybe they upgraded? Or maybe she didn't want to admit she picked a nicer place. Madison has this thing where she tries to downplay spending money, even when it's totally fine. But still, it didn't sit right with me. She finally called that night, around 10:15. Her voice was light, a little breathy. Music played in the background, something bass-heavy. She said they were out at a rooftop bar, having the best mezcal cocktails, and that I had to try one when she got home. I asked how the spa was. She paused, just for a second, and then said it was amazing, exactly what I needed. I asked who all went, and she said just her and Emily, because Lacey and Tessa weren't into massages. Something about the way she said it was careful, like every word was being weighed before it came out of her mouth. I didn't say anything, just listened, told her I missed her. She said she missed me too, but I couldn't tell if she meant it or if it was just a reflex. After we hung up, I just sat there in the dark for a while. Murphy rested his head on my knee, watching me like he was waiting for a command. I didn't have one. I just kept replaying the call in my head. Was I being paranoid? Was this just normal travel stuff that I was reading into because I had too much time alone? Maybe. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Like I was looking at a photo I used to love, only now there was a crack running through the middle of it, and no matter how hard I tried to ignore it, I couldn't unsee it. Madison flew back late Monday evening. I'd offered to pick her up from the airport, but she said the girls were splitting a rideshare home from the terminal. No point in you driving all that way, she'd said casually over the phone. At the time, I didn't question it. But when I sat alone in our living room, checking the clock, watching Murphy perk up at every car that passed outside, I started to feel it again, that now familiar weight in my chest that something was wrong and I didn't know why. She walked through the door just after 10 p.m., suitcase in one hand, plastic cup with some leftover airport smoothie in the other. She looked exhausted. Her makeup was minimal, hair tied up, hoodie draped over the same black tank top she'd posted in one of her sunshine selfies. And yet, she looked incredible. Or maybe that was just the absence talking. I stood up and pulled her into a hug, and for a moment, I let myself believe things were fine. That it was just me in my head too much. Trip good? I asked as she kicked off her sandals by the door. It was amazing, she said, already heading toward the kitchen. I needed that so much. I swear, I haven't felt this recharged in months. She took a sip of water and leaned against the counter. How is everything here? I gave her the usual rundown. Slow work week, Murphy ate one of my socks. The fridge started making that weird humming again. She nodded and listened, but her energy was airy, like she hadn't fully arrived yet, like she was still mentally somewhere else. She said she was jet-lagged, even though there's only a 1-hour time difference. When I offered to heat up leftovers, she said she wasn't hungry. When I tried to cuddle up next to her on the couch, she shifted away slightly, saying she was sticky from the flight and wanted to shower first. It wasn't that anything was overtly wrong. That's the part that messed with me. Everything she said made sense. Every action had a reasonable explanation. But still, there was this drift, like I was reaching for someone who was still smiling at me, still answering my questions, but wasn't fully present in the same room anymore. Later that night, after she'd gone to bed, I sat at the kitchen table finishing a bottle of the cheap Cabernet she usually saves for girls' nights. Murphy lay nearby, chewing absent-mindedly on a toy. I didn't want to check her phone. I didn't want to become that guy, the snooper, the digger, the man who can't take his wife at her word. But my mind was restless. Instead, I walked over to her suitcase, which she'd left half-zipped near the laundry room. I wasn't even sure what I was doing, maybe looking for a gift she brought me, or a note, or something thoughtful. That was something she used to do after trips. A keychain, a dumb souvenir, a little reminder that I'd been on her mind while she was away. There wasn't one this time. Her clothes were folded loosely, some tossed in with beach towels, makeup bag on top. As I moved one of her sundresses aside, a folded receipt slipped out. I picked it up, mostly out of reflex. It was for dinner, dated Friday night, from a restaurant in Sedona. Not unusual, they had talked about making a short drive out there. What caught my eye, though, was the reservation info at the top. Table for 2. My mind jumped. 2. I knew she had 3 friends on the trip. Madison had never mentioned splitting off for a one-on-one dinner. Not once. I stared at the slip for a long time, just reading the name of the restaurant, the timestamp, the wine they ordered, the dessert. It felt intimate, like a date night menu. I wanted to tell myself she had dinner with one of the girls who needed a break, or that maybe the other 2 had stayed in sick or tired. But the longer I sat there, the more hollow that logic began to sound. And the worst part? I didn't even feel angry. I felt numb. I folded the receipt back up and slid it into the drawer beside our fridge, where we kept coupons and takeout menus and random junk. I didn't want to confront her. Not yet. Not until I understood why this growing feeling inside me had started to bloom into something closer to dread. When I climbed into bed, she was already asleep, back turned, breathing slow and even. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the sound of the ceiling fan a low hum above us. Her phone buzzed once on the nightstand. She didn't stir. I didn't look. I didn't want to know. Not yet. It happened on a Tuesday. One of those gray, sluggish mornings where the house felt a little too still. Madison was in the kitchen, making coffee, scrolling through her phone like she always did while waiting for the machine to finish its slow drip. I was on the couch, tying my boots before heading to a job site. Nothing about the moment felt unusual, just another ordinary start to a day. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. A message from Madison. I smiled at first, thinking it was something sweet. A note for the day. She used to do that sometimes, send a quick text even when we were in the same room. A simple thinking of you or drive safe. Just her way. But then I opened it, and the world stopped. I still can't believe we pulled that off. For days with your hands on me, and he never suspected a thing. I miss you already. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The words just sat there on my screen, glowing like they were carved in fire. My brain couldn't even register them at first. It felt like a joke, like my eyes were playing tricks on me. I blinked, once, twice, and stared again. It was real. There it was. Plain. Direct. A confession wrapped in gloating. And I knew, immediately, I wasn't the one it was meant for. She had texted me by accident. From the kitchen, I heard the kettle click off. She was still scrolling. Still sipping. Still humming some tune under her breath. I turned my phone over and stared at the ceiling. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. Instead, I felt this slow wave of stillness wash over me. The kind that settles in right before a thunderstorm tears open the sky. I don't know how long I sat there. Probably no more than a few seconds. But time been in those moments. Stretched. Twisted. When I finally glanced back at the screen, the message was gone. Deleted. Vanished from the thread. She must have realized what she'd done. Maybe it took her a few seconds. Maybe she saw it right away. But she was fast. Too fast. I didn't move, didn't react, didn't say a word. She didn't either. There was no comment from her. No awkward question like, "Hey, did you just get something weird from me?" No flustered follow-up. She said nothing at all. Just poured her coffee, leaned against the counter, and asked if I wanted her to grab groceries after work. I nodded. Said sure. My voice came out normal, steady. Like nothing had happened. And she smiled. Like nothing had happened. The rest of the morning played out like a carefully choreographed routine. She kissed my cheek as I left. Told me to drive safe. I told her I would. She headed upstairs to shower. I got in my truck, pulled out of the driveway, and sat at the stop sign at the end of our street, hands frozen on the wheel. She didn't know I'd seen it. She thought she'd deleted it in time. She believed her secret was still intact. And I sat there in silence, the truth burning through me, leaving behind something I didn't recognize yet. Not rage. Not grief. Something colder. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just felt the weight of it all settle in my chest like wet cement. For days. With him. And I never suspected a thing. Until now. I didn't go to work that day. I couldn't. I drove around for hours instead, nowhere in particular, letting the same 4 words play on repeat in my head like a cursed song, for days with him. Every red light felt like a trap. Every parked car looked like it might hold the version of me from last week, the man who handed over money without hesitation, who kissed his wife goodbye at the terminal thinking he was doing something good, something generous. The man who still believed in her. It was strange, the way the rage didn't explode. It just grew inside me, heavy and slow, like steel pouring into a mold. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even shaking. I was just becoming something else. Some colder, sharper version of myself, someone who knew exactly what to do. By the time I pulled into the hardware store parking lot, I already had the whole plan mapped out in my head. I bought a new deadbolt, the heavy-duty kind. The guy behind the counter tried to make small talk about football, but I barely heard him. I just nodded, handed him my card, and walked out. Back home, I opened the front door slowly, as if it didn't belong to me anymore. Madison wasn't home yet, her car wasn't in the driveway, and that was exactly what I needed. I went straight to the bedroom and started grabbing her things. Not in a fit of fury, not like you see in movies with clothes flying everywhere. I packed them neatly, deliberately. Drawer by drawer, closet to suitcase. I knew where everything was. I'd helped her fold most of it, ironed her work blouses more times than I could count. There was something sickening about how familiar it all felt. Packing your wife's suitcase while knowing she'd just spent 4 days pretending someone else's hands were yours. I took her suitcase, 2 of them, actually, and wheeled them to the living room. The silence in the house was thick, broken only by the buzz of the dryer I never turned off. I grabbed her shoes, her makeup bag, her spare charger from the nightstand. I found a crumpled receipt in the pocket of her hoodie, and I didn't even look at it. Just threw it in with the rest. None of it mattered anymore. Then I opened the front window wide and began placing her things on the grass outside. Carefully. Deliberately. Like a display. I left the suitcases upright. Her gym bag by the porch. Even her favorite scarf, the one I bought her for our 3rd anniversary, folded on top like a bow. I wanted her to see it, and no, you don't live here anymore. The new lock clicked into place in less than 20 minutes. I tested it 3 times. There was something deeply satisfying about the way the bolt slid shut, like the house was finally sealing itself off from the infection that had been growing inside it. Then I sat down and waited. She got home around 6:40 p.m. I heard the car before I saw it. She pulled into the driveway, music playing, windows cracked just enough to let out the tail end of some upbeat pop song. And then she stopped. The engine cut off. The driver's door opened. She stepped out and froze. I watched from behind the blinds, unseen. She looked down at her things. Slowly. Like her brain needed a second to catch up. Then she stepped forward, touched the handle of one suitcase, looked up at the locked door, our door, and then back down again. She didn't knock. She stood there, motionless, for almost a full minute. Then, finally, she called my name. Once. Softly. I didn't answer. She knocked. Still nothing. When she tried the key and it didn't turn, she knocked again harder this time. Eric, she called, voice rising. What's going on? I stayed quiet. After a few more seconds, I heard her walk to the side of the house. She tried the back door. Then the garage. Both were locked. She circled back to the porch, tried my name again, angrier now. Confused. Panicked. Eric. Open the door. What is this? And still, I said nothing. Then came the texts. One after another, like a dam breaking. What are you doing? Why is my stuff outside? Can you please open the door and talk to me? Eric, This isn't funny. Then finally, did I do something? I opened the door just a crack, enough for her to see me. Her face changed the second our eyes met. Not like someone caught in a lie. Like someone staring at something they never thought they'd have to face. I didn't say anything. I didn't yell. I just held up my phone with her message on the screen. The one she thought she deleted fast enough. She gasped, actually gasped, and I saw her mouth open to speak, but nothing came out. I held up a hand. No more lies, I said. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was too calm. You need to leave. Eric, wait, just... I shook my head. I know everything, Madison. With who? When? How? She stepped forward. I stepped back. I'll call you when the lawyer's ready, I said, then closed the door. Just like that. Done. She stood out there for a while. I don't know how long. Eventually, she took her things and left. I didn't watch her go. I sat in the spare bedroom, lights off, just staring at the floor. As for him, my best friend, or the man who used to be, I fired him the next morning. He worked for me, ran logistics on one of my bigger sites. I sent him a short message. Don't come in. You're done. No explanation. He knew. Neither of them has heard from me since. And they won't. I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I didn't plead for answers. I gave them what they gave me. Silence. And I've never felt more in control. The first morning I woke up alone, truly alone, was quiet in a way that didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the kind of silence that follows an explosion. Not calm, not restful, just absence. The house was still, hollow, stripped of the subtle energies that come with sharing space. No toothbrush beside the sink. No half-drunk cup of coffee on the counter. No perfume lingering in the hallway. Just me and the soft hum of a refrigerator and a dog who looked at me with the same confused loyalty he always had. In those first few days, it wasn't anger that stayed with me, it was grief. Not for her, but for the version of my life I thought I was living. It took about 2 weeks to stop expecting her name to pop up on my phone. Even longer to stop half dreading it. My lawyer handled everything. Madison didn't fight. She didn't ask for anything. Maybe she was too ashamed. Maybe she knew there wasn't a damn thing she could say that I'd want to hear. I never saw her again, not in person. Her name stayed tucked in some corner of my call history, but I never touched it. I left it there like a scar I didn't want to forget. I moved out of that house before the paperwork was even final. I found a quiet apartment in a neighboring suburb, not far, but far enough. I didn't take much with me. Just what I needed to work, to sleep, and to breathe without choking on memories. I left behind the couch we picked out together, the curtains she insisted were soft white, not beige, and the bed where she whispered to another man while pretending to be mine. I didn't want to scrub the place clean of her. I wanted to erase the place altogether. And so I did. Starting over at 33 isn't tragic, but it's sobering. You realize quickly how much of your identity gets braided into someone else's when you're with them long enough. The food you buy, the way you organize your Sunday, the movies you default to, even the way you fold laundry. At first, it feels like everything is a question you don't know the answer to anymore. What do I like? How do I do this? Without her voice in the background, commenting, adjusting, mocking affectionately, I had to relearn what my own sounded like. But slowly, it came back. It wasn't dramatic, like in the movies. There was no montage of gym workouts or dating apps or sudden epiphanies. It was smaller, more human. I started running again, not to escape anything, just to feel the ground beneath me. I spent more time with my brothers, more time at the office, and more time just driving aimlessly through places I'd never paid attention to before. Sometimes I'd stop at a diner off the highway, order something greasy, and just sit there for an hour with a notebook. I wasn't writing anything special, just writing. Sometimes about her, sometimes about nothing. But I started hearing my own thoughts again, and that felt like progress. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I met someone. It wasn't a grand love story. Her name was Alyssa. We met at a friend's birthday dinner. She was quiet, the kind of quiet that isn't shy, just observant. She listened more than she spoke. But when she did speak, it carried weight. She had this way of looking at you like she was trying to read between your words. And oddly enough, I liked that. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the need to perform or filter myself. I didn't tell her everything at first. Not about Madison. Not about the betrayal. But I think she sensed something broken in me, and she never treated it like a flaw. She never tried to fix me. Just let me be. We took it slow. Purposefully. I wasn't ready to dive headfirst into anything, and she respected that. We started with long walks, easy conversations, quiet dinners at her place. She made tea instead of coffee, listened to records, owned a cat who hated everyone but her. She was different, but something about her steadiness made me feel like I didn't need to keep my guard up. And for a man who'd been gut-punched by someone he once called his home, that feeling was worth more than I can put into words. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe Alyssa and I grow into something. Maybe we don't. But for the first time since that message shattered everything I thought I knew, I feel okay not knowing. I'm not gripping the wheel with white knuckles anymore. I'm just driving, windows down, letting the air in. One of the last things my dad said to me after everything happened stuck with me. He said, "Sometimes the version of your life you lose isn't the one that would have made you happy. It just feels heavier because you were carrying it for so long." And he was right. Madison isn't part of my story anymore. But I am. It's strange how time moves once the dust settles. In the beginning, every minute felt thick, stretched out like hours. I'd sit in the quiet and feel like I was drowning in stillness. But after a while, life, real, ordinary life, starts creeping back in. Not all at once. Just small things. A grocery list. A haircut. An evening where you realize the day passed without thinking about them. And then another. And then you realize the wound doesn't scream anymore. It just whispers. It's been almost a year since the morning she sent that message to the wrong man. I haven't seen her since the night I locked her out. Not once. There were a few emails from her lawyer. One attempt at a letter, handwritten, even, but I never read it. I don't hate her. I don't think I ever did. Hate takes energy, and honestly, she doesn't get that from me anymore. What she did cost her access to my heart, not my soul. I think that's what healing looks like, not pretending it didn't happen, but refusing to carry the weight of it any longer. The truth is, betrayal doesn't teach you as much about the other person as it does about yourself. I learned how quiet my anger can be, how composed my breaking point is. I learned that the scariest part of being deceived isn't the lie. It's how easily you loved someone while they were telling it. That part haunted me for months. How I looked at her and saw truth. How I slept beside her while she carried someone else's hands on her skin. I had to sit with that, own it, and then let it go. I still catch myself wondering who she is now. Whether she stayed with him. Whether she thinks about that message, that moment, that line she crossed so easily. But those questions aren't mine to ask anymore. The version of her I loved doesn't exist. Maybe she never did. Or maybe she was just a version that couldn't last. I don't know. And I've stopped trying to. As for me, I'm good. Really. I still see Alyssa. Slowly, carefully, kindly. She's nothing like Madison, which is probably what I needed. She listens without interrupting. She asks questions like she genuinely wants to know the answers. She doesn't pull me out of my past. She just makes the present easier to stay in. And that's more than I could have asked for. I started journaling again. It helps. Some nights, I'll pour a whiskey, open the window, and just write until the pen stops moving. A lot of it is nonsense, half-thoughts, quotes I scribble down from podcasts or strangers in coffee shops. But every once in a while, I land on something that feels like a truth I earned. Like this. You don't get to choose who breaks you, but you do get to choose what you build from the pieces. That's what I'm doing now. Building. It won't be the same shape as before. Maybe it'll be smaller. Maybe quieter. But it'll be mine. And this time, I'll be able to see it clearly for what it is. Not a dream I convinced myself was real, but a life I chose with my eyes open. To anyone reading this who's still standing at the edge of it, still bleeding, still gasping, just know this. Survival doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with mornings. With the first time you laugh and don't feel guilty. With a night of sleep that doesn't end in panic. With silence that finally feels safe. You'll get there. You're already on the way. So was I.